Another far right party has been formed in called Rupert Lowe.
It's a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship. The ECHR, what does it actually mean for British people? Let's go through a few examples, shall we? A convicted Sri Lankan sex offender allowed to stay in Britain because he is gay and would be at risk of persecution if he was returned to his home country. I don't care. A Jamaican drug dealer was jailed twice, allowed to stay in Britain after claiming his removal would breach his right to a family life. I don't care. A Zimbabwean jailed for killing a man in a car crash. I didn't give you. No. A Zimbabwean jailed for killing a man in a car crash, allowed to stay in Britain after it was discovered he had an illicit love child. I don't care. A convicted Indian paedophile allowed to stay in Britain by claiming the move would harm his children. I don't care. An Albanian criminal was allowed to stay in Britain partly because his son will not eat foreign chicken nuggets. I definitely don't care. We hear so much of the human rights for foreign paedophiles, sex pets, and murderers.
Is not giving way. Members may disagree with what he said, but we will conduct this in an orderly way.
What about the human rights of the British people? The right not to be raped, stabbed, and killed by foreigners who should never have been in our country to begin with. Please spare me the continued moral outrage.
Mr. Lewis, sorry, Ms. Kavesh is making a point of order.
Yeah. The honourable gentleman just referred to the fact that someone just mentioned a few moments.
She can't even speak properly because she knows they're getting schooled. They're getting exposed.
It's not the point of order.
He's exposed him now.
In relation to the content of his speech.
What's wrong?
Mr. Lowe.
Please spare me the continued moral outrage. I'm bored of it. The British people are bored of it. It is not cruel to deport criminals. It is not inhumane to defend our own citizens. What is cruel and what is inhumane is allowing foreign killers and sex offenders to walk amongst us in the name of the human rights they should have forfeited the moment they committed their crimes. You can sit here and persuade yourselves otherwise, but one simple fact remains. The British people want them gone, not some of them, not most of them, all of them. What happens on return to their own country is quite simply not our problem.
You hear that, lady?
The solution is three straightforward steps.
She's getting paid.
Step one, leave the ECHR.
Go against
Remove all other legal obstacles to mass deportations. Restore Britain's new 100-page plus policy document proves it can be done. Second step.
That is your three minutes.
Chairman, the interventions help me out.
Well, you didn't have an intervention.
Yeah, they stole about 30 seconds from his speech, but you get the idea. People just don't care anymore about the law.
I just thought I'd throw that in because it's coming. It's coming. Once Britain gets itself sorted out, Australia will be followed behind it because Britain is worse than us. So, yeah. And Chris Kenny, you're a coward, dude. You got no balls. I think, aren't you gay or something too? Yeah, that just says it all. You go against God, so you get what you deserve. You're such a coward. Oh, Islam's saying thing about Muslims. Yeah, well, that's their book. They threaten people. Stop being a bitch. That's the problem with you people. It says it in their book. That's what they follow. Why not just say what it follows? Because you're a fucking bunch of cowards. You know it's in their book. You've just been a bunch of cowards and people are going to get hurt because you haven't got the balls or spine to tell the truth. Whereas Fine Hansen does. It's unfortunate. It seems to be girls who are in politics who have got the balls, and you guys are a bunch of soft cocks. Especially and you journalists too, man. It's like you've never read the book, man. Oh well, there's no radical Islam. It's their book. It's what they follow, and around the world they've done many stats on that. Most Muslims want Sharia law, and they respect ISIS and all these Taliban dudes. and jihad and everything. So you're just being cowards. You're gonna get up. You're gonna get your civilians hurt, and I know you don't care. You don't care. You're a bunch of cowards because you live in gated communities, especially Chris Kenny, because you're on your way out. What are you, like 60, 70 or something? Something ridiculous like that? You old muppet. You don't care about the children. You're a piece of crap. Don't worry, God will see you and show you where you're a piece of crap. God, yeah, God. You know the one who feeds the birds? No, I want to feed the birds. Idiots. You're going to read Maccabees up to, 5. I think it's 5. Yes. Praise Jesus. First Maccabees number 5. It's Sunday. I've had communion already. Blessed it. This is my body. This is my blood. Took it. So, yeah, proper communion. I had unleavened bread and proper red wine. Oh, it's fruity, so I didn't taste so bad going down. So, which is pretty good. It's a Indigenous brand. So, God bless my Indigenous brothers and sisters. First Maccabees chapter 5. When the surrounding nations heard the altar was repaired and the sanctuary renewed as before, they were extremely angry. So they resolved to kill the race of Jacob who lived among them, and they began to kill and destroy the people. Thus Judas waged war on the sons of Esau and Edomiah at Acrabatene. Acrabatene? That sounds about right. Acrabatene. Acrabatene. For they were besieging Israel. He struck them a great blow, humbled them, and took spoils from them. He also recalled the evil acts by the sons of Bayan, Baean, who trapped and snared the people in ambush out on the roads. Good on me, rods. He shut them up in their towers and encamped around them, vowing to destroy them. So he set their towers on fire with everyone inside. Then he crossed over against the sons of Ammon and found a strong army and many people with Timothy as their leader. He fought many battles against them until he struck them down, and they were crushed before him. Then he overpowered Jazer and its villages and came back to Judea. Now the foreigners in Gilead assembled against Israelites, living with their borders to destroy them. Living with their borders to destroy them, okay. But they fled into the fortress of Dathema and sent letters to Judas and his brothers, saying, the Gentiles have gathered against us and surrounded us to destroy us. They have made ready to come here and overpower the fortress where we have taken refuge, and Timothy is in charge of their army. Now therefore come and deliver us from their hand, for many of our men have perished. All our brothers in region of Tob have been put to death, and they took their wives and children captive, along with their possessions, and they destroyed about 1,000 men there. While their letters were being read, behold, other envoys arrived from Galilee with torn garments and reported similar words, saying that those from Ptolemais, Tyre, Sidon, and all Galilee of the Gentiles had assembled themselves together to destroy us. So when Judas and the people heard these words, a great assembly was gathered to decide what to do for their brothers who were in trouble and were being attacked by adversaries. So Judas told Simon, his brother, choose men for yourself and go and save your brothers in Galilee, while my brother Jonathan and I go to Gilead. He left Joseph, the son of Zechariah, and Azariah, a leader of the people, when the rest of the army in Judea took guard it. He ordered them, saying, to charge of this people, but do not go into battle against the Gentiles until we return. Then 3,000 troops were chosen for Simon to go to Galilee, and 8,000 men for Judas to take to Gilead. Victories in Galilee and Gilead. Thus Simon went into Galilee and fought many battles with Gentiles and crushed the Gentiles before him. He chased them to the gates of Ptolemais, and 3,000 Gentiles perished, and he took their spoils. So he took the Israelites of Galilee and Abada, along with their wives and children and everything they possessed, and brought them with great joy to Judea. Meanwhile, Judas Maccabees and Jonathan his brother crossed over the Jordan and journeyed 3 full days into the desert. They came upon Nabateans who met them peacefully and told them everything that had happened to their brothers in Gilead. Many have been imprisoned in Bozrah and Bosor, in Alema, Chaspho, Maked, Akarnam. All these cities were fortified and strong, and some have been imprisoned in the remaining cities of Gilead. Tomorrow your foes will attack you. Tomorrow your foes will attack the strongholds to destroy and capture all of them in one day. Judas and his forces returned at once to Bozrah, by the desert road, and he captured the city, killed all the males by the edge of the sword, took all the spoils, and set the city on fire. He marched from there by night, and then kept going until they reached the fortress of Dathema. Then at daybreak they took up and beheld many people, too many to count, carrying ladders and engines of war to take the fortress and strike the Israelites inside. When Judas saw the battle had started, an outcry went up from the city to heaven with trumpets, a loud shout. So he said to his army of men, "Fight today for the sake of our brothers." Then he came up behind them in 3 companies, and they sounded the trumpets and cried aloud in prayer. When Timothy's army saw that they faced Maccabees, they fled before him. He struck them a great blow, and on that day 8,000 of them perished. Judas then made his way to Alima. He waged war and captured it, taking its spoils and setting the city on fire. He marched on from there and captured Chaspho, Maked, Cashpho, Maked, and Bozor, and the remaining cities of Gilead. Timothy, however, called together more troops and set up camp opposite Raphon across the stream. Judas dispatched soldiers to scout the camp, and they returned to him, saying, All the foreigners have gathered around us. All the foreigners have gathered around us, and very large army is with him. Further, they have hired Arab mercenaries to help, and they are also camped on the other side of the stream, prepared to come against you in battle. So Judas went out to face them. Timothy told the officers of his army, while Judas and his camp drew near the stream. If he crosses the stream against us, we will be unable to withstand him, for he is strong enough to defeat us. But if he is frightened and sets up camp across the stream, we will pass over against him and crush him. But as Judas approached the water, he stationed the scribes of the troops near the stream and ordered them, "Do not allow anyone to stay in camp, but make all of them join the battle." So Judas crossed over to meet them first, with all the men behind him. Then all the Gentiles were crushed by them. They dropped their weapons and fled into the sacred regions of Canaan. So Judas captured the city and set the sacred precinct on fire, along with all those residing there. Thus Canaan was defeated, for they were not able to stand against Judas. After this, Judas assembled all the Jews living in Gilead, from small to great, along with their wives and children and their possessions, a great entourage, to return to the land of Judah. They came as far as Ephron, an expansive and fortified city on the highway they could not pass through either to the right or the left. The only way to go through the middle of the town, but the men of the city closed it off and barricaded the gates with stones. So Judas sent them a peaceful word, saying, "Let us pass through your land to go to our land. No one will harm you. Merely we will come through on foot." But they refused to open to him. So Judas gave orders to proclaim to the troops that each man make camp where he was. Then the soldiers in the army made camp, and he fought the men of Ephraim all day and all night, and the city was given over into his hands. He killed every male with the edge of the sword, destroyed the city completely, and took its spoils. So he passed through the city, stepping over those who were killed. Then they came to Jordan, crossing over into a great plain facing Bethshan. And Judas gathered the stragglers and encouraged the men along the way until they entered Judah. They marched up to Mount Zion and sacrificed whole burnt of offerings and offered whole burnt offerings with joy and gladness of heart, because not one of them was lost before they returned home in peace. While Judas and Jonathan had been in Gilead, and Simon his brother was in Galilee facing Ptolemais, Joseph, the son of Zacharias and Azariah, officers of the army, got word of their courageous acts and the victorious battles they fought. They spoke, saying, "Let us make a name for ourselves as well and take on the Gentiles who live around us." Thus they gave a command to those from the army with them, and they marched to Jamnia. But Judgeus and his army went out from the city to face them in battle, and Joseph and Azariah were routed and chased as far as the boundaries of Judea. That day about 2,000 men of Israel perished. It was a great defeat for the people. For expecting to act heroically, they did not follow the orders of Judas and his brothers, and they did not belong to the seed of those men through whom Israel received the gift of deliverance. So Judas and his brothers were honored greatly throughout all Israel and even by the Gentiles. Where their name was being heard, people assembled around them and gave them praise. Then Judas went out with his brothers, and fought the sons of Esau in the land of the south, and attacked Hebron and its towns, and pulled down its many fortresses, and set on fire its towers round about. He also marched into the country of Philistines, and then onto Marissa. Some priests that day who wanted to show their courage perished in battle, for they went out to fight recklessly. But Judas turned aside to Azotus, the country of the Philistines. He destroyed their altars, set the carved idols of their gods on fire, and took spoils in the cities. Then he came back to the land of Judah. First Maccabees chapter 5. Take 5. Take a Kit Kat. Queensland gets hot. All right. First Maccabees chapter 6. Last days of King Antiochus 4. Now King Antiochus passed through the upper countries and heard that Elamias in Persia was a splendid city for its wealth in silver and gold. Its temple contained great wealth, with shields of gold, breastplates, and weaponry left there by Alexander, the son of Philip, the Macedonian king, who first ruled over the Greeks. So he came and sought to defeat the city and take spoils, but he failed, because his plot was uncovered by the men of the city. They confronted and fought against him, and he fled and retreated from there, very discouraged, and went back to Babylon. Then a man came and told him, while he was still in Persia, that his army, which had invaded the land of Judah, was put to flight. That Lysias had gone first with a strong army, but had been put to shame before Israel. That Israel was growing strong by the weapons, supplies, and abundant spoils they had taken from the armies they had conquered. Moreover, they had pulled down the abomination he built on top of the altar of Jerusalem, and they had encircled the sanctuary with high walls as it had before, as well as Bethzer, his hometown. When the king received the when the king received this report, he was shocked and greatly shaken. He fell upon his bed and was sick with grief, because matters had not gone for him as he hoped. King Antiochus lay there several days for deepening grief. There several days for deepening grief worsened his condition. He concluded he was about to die. Thus he called together his friends, saying, "Sleep has eluded my eyes, and anxiety has devastated my heart. I ask myself, what is this stress I have come to? And into what sea of troubles am I immersed? For I was kind and loved as a ruler, but now I have recalled the evils I did in Jerusalem. For I took all the silver and gold vessels and sent to destroy those who lived in Judah, for no good reason. I know that because of these things evil has found me, and behold, I am perishing with deep grief in a foreign land." He then summoned Philip, one of his friends, and set him over his entire kingdom. He gave him crown and his robe and ring, that he could take charge of his son Antiochus and raise him to rule. Thus Antiochus the king died in the 149th year. When Lysias found out the king had reposed, he established Antiochus his son to reign. Lysias had raised him from youth and called him Eupator. Now men from the citadel were confining Israel to the area around the sanctuary. They were attempting by whatever means to injure them and to bring strength to the Gentiles. Oh! So he gathered all the men to defeat them. They assembled the army and attacked the city in the 115th year. He also built engines of war and other instruments of battle. But some of these enemies escaped from the enclosure, and some ungodly Israelites sided with them. They approached the king, saying, "How long will it be until you render a judgment to avenge our brothers? We were pleased to serve your father and to follow what he said and obey his orders. Because of this, the sons of our people attacked the citadel and became our enemies. Besides this, they killed as many of us as they found, and our inheritance were taken away, but have not stretched out their hand against us alone, but also against all the lands on their borders. And behold, today they have surrounded the citadel in Jerusalem to defeat it. They have strengthened the sanctuary and Bezer as well. So unless you quickly overtake them, they will do worse things than these, and you will be unable to stop them." The king was angered greatly when he heard this. So he assembled all his friends, the military leaders, and those who ruled. Armies of mercenaries came to him, as well from other nations, and from various islands of the seas. So the number of his armies was 100,000 foot soldiers, 20,000 cavalry, and 32 elephant trained for battle. Oh. They arrived through Idumea and marched against Bezer, fighting for many days and building engines of war. But Israel went out, set them on fire, and battled heroically. Judas then marched out from the citadel and set up camp at Beth Zachariah, across from the king's camp. The next morning, the king rose at dawn and led his army on a forced march on the highway to Beth Zachariah. His soldiers prepared themselves for warfare and blew the trumpets. They also showed the elephants the juice of grapes and mulberries to ready them for the campaign. Then they stationed the elephants among the phalanx and and set us long phalanx and set alongside each animal 1,000 men covered with coats of mail and with bronze helmets in their heads. 500 horsemen who were chosen and assigned to each elephant. Those positioned themselves beforehand wherever the animal was, and whenever it went, they rode alongside and never left it alone. Sturdy, covered wooden towers were strapped upon each elephant by a special harness, and 4 armed men fought from inside each tower with its Indian driver. They positioned the remainder of the horsemen on each side on the 2 flanks of the forces, disturbing the enemy while they themselves were protected by the phalanx. As the sun shined on the golden and bronze shields, the hills glistened from them and it lit up like a flaming fire. While one sector of King's forces was stretched out on the high hills and somewhere on the plain, they marched on steadfastly in good order. Everyone trembled when they heard the sound of the soldiers as they marched along, and the clanging of their weapons, for the army was massive and very strong. But Judas drew near with his army in battle formation, and 600 of the king's men fell. Then Eliza, called Avran, saw one of the elephants covered with royal armor. It was taller than the rest. As he reasoned, the king was riding it. So he laid down his life to rescue his people, to make an everlasting name for himself. He ran boldly into the center of the phalanx, killing soldiers to the right and left, and they got out of his way on both flanks. Then he crawled under the elephant, struck it from beneath, and killed it. It fell to the ground on top of him, and he died there. When the Israelites saw the royal might and the fierce attack of the troops, they turned away from them in flight. But the soldiers of the king's army went up to Jerusalem to attack them, and the king set up camp in Judea and on Mount Zion. He reached a peace accord with the man of Bethzer, who evacuated the city because they had no food there to withstand a siege. For it was a sabbatical year for the land, so the king captured Bethzer and set a guard there to secure it. He then set a camp opposite the sanctuary of several days and built siege towers, engines of war which threw fire and stones, machines to fire off arrows and catapults. The defenders also made engines of war to match theirs, so they battled several days, but with no food stored up because it was the 7th year, and the men who survived in Judea against the Gentiles had eaten the remainder provisions. Few men remained in the sanctuary, for hunger had taken over them. Then scattered each to his own place. Now Lysias got word that Philip, who Antiochus the king had chosen while still alive to raise Antiochus his son to rule, had returned from Persia and Media. with the armies that had gone there with the king, and that he was trying to gain control of the kingdom. So Lysias decided immediately to send a message to the king, the commanders, and the men, saying, "We grow weaker each day. Our food supply is running out. The forces we are fighting against is strong, and governing the kingdom puts pressure on us. Therefore, let us come to an agreement with these men and have peace with them and their nation. We should arrange for them to live by their laws as before, for it was because of their laws which we abolished that they became furious and did all the things they have done." This word pleased the king and the commanders, so he sent an offer of peace to the Israelites, which they accepted. Thus the king and the commanders gave them their oath. On these conditions, the Israelites evacuated the fortress. But when the king came to Mount Zion and saw the fortification of the place, he broke his promise and commanded his men to pull down the surrounding wall. Then he left hastily and came back to Antioch. There he discovered Philip in charge. There he left. There he discovered Philip in charge. So he attached him and captured the city by force. Maccabees 1, chapter 6. Ooh, I might have a spell and read later. But there is one bit I want to read. I was listening to audio last night. I think it's in Joshua. Joshua. Listen to this. First Joshua. After the death of Moses, the Lord spoke to Joshua the son of Nun, the assistant of Moses, saying, "Moses, my servant is dead. Now therefore arise, you and all these people, and cross over Jordan into the land I will give them. Every place on which you tread with your feet, I will give it to you. As I said to Moses, your territory shall be the desert and Lebanon, as far as the great river Euphrates River, and from this setting of the sun to the further sea. No man shall be able to oppose you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, thus I will be also with you. I will not forsake or disregard you." Well, let's go to here. Let's see what he's talking about, eh? Jordan River. There's Euphrates. Yeah, so everything around here, this is right. Look at that. See where Canaan is? And then you see where the Jordan River is. Euphrates River is around there somewhere too. Yeah. Anyway, that's just maybe I'll read later. So praise Jesus. God bless. Have a good day.